Hey, welcome to Brighter Rays. Today's study is called The Dog Returns, and we're talking about Genesis 21 through 18 through this study. So let's begin. Now, we've made it through the tough sections of Genesis 18 already, and Genesis 19. 19 has some interesting stories there. And we saw some things that are disturbing, things that make us uncomfortable. Well, that's the Bible, really. There's lots of stuff in there that makes us uncomfortable. Hopefully you also saw that chapter 19 is a bold statement on sin and sexuality. The fall of Sodom and Gomorrah and the disgrace of Lot stand as a condemning statement against humanity. And, we have seen a split here, a contrast between Abraham and Lot on the other side. These two men, both righteous according to God's word, have taken two different paths. Lot had chosen to live in a place surrounded by evil, and he paid the consequences. Abraham, on the other hand, has chosen to walk with the Lord. He's chosen to walk before the Lord. Now, as we've seen, he is not a perfect human being. He is the hero of the faith, but all the heroes are real people. They struggled, they had real temptations, they were emotional people, just like us. And they stumbled. They fell sometimes. But it doesn't mean they weren't a child of God. It doesn't mean they lost their salvation. It just means that they hadn't arrived yet. Like Paul says in Philippians, he was not perfect, but he was pressing on to make perfection and the resurrection from the dead his. That's what he was doing. Now, Genesis 20 through 23 contains some of the struggles that Abraham has as he tries to live before God. Some of the struggles are outside of his control. Some of the struggles come from God's direct command. And some of the struggles, like the one we'll see today, come from Abraham's own doing. Even though we see Abraham riding the roller coaster of faith, God shows himself in this narrative as the one that is always faithful. He has made a covenant and he will see it fulfilled. And even though that what Abraham does deserve punishment, God shows himself merciful and withholds punishment and graciously gives Abraham blessings. Now, this study, we've chosen to break this passage down into 4 parts. In verses 1 through 2, we find Abraham deceiving Abimelech, and we'll talk about how we too, like him, are repeat offenders before God. We're like the dog that goes back to its vomit. In verses 3 through 7, we have the appearance of the Lord to Abimelech in a dream, which reminds us that God intervenes on our behalf. Third, Abraham is confronted by Abimelech, and we see the uncomfortable but welcome truth that God mercifully exposes our sin. And finally, we'll see the intervention of Abraham for Abimelech, and we'll marvel at how God graciously uses us. We don't deserve it, but he does use us. So come on back next time, and we'll begin our study as we look at Genesis chapter 20 here, and we'll talk about how we are also repeat offenders, just like Abraham.